Om Swastiastu from New Zealand. Apologies for the delay in getting this next video to you, but I'm not a full-time YouTuber like some people. I actually have a full-time job here in New Zealand, and just recently I've been working even extra hard to keep up with the demand for the products I make. You see, I make bacon and sausages, and all through the pandemic I've been classified as a essential supplier, so I've been working doubly hard. It's a good position to be in, I'm not complaining. Unlike the position hundreds of thousands of Balinese and Indonesians living in Bali find themselves in right now during this global coronavirus pandemic. No tourists means no work for a massive amount of people. I've read some estimates that they reckon as many as 3 million people in Bali have had their livelihoods affected in some way or another.
Mr. Steve! Mr. Steve!
The Balinese have had to contend with a lack of tourists in the past. The Bali bombings in the early 2000s, the eruptions of Mount Agung and the like have all led to a lack of tourism, but this COVID-19 pandemic is far, far, far worse. There are no tourists, few expats there. They reckon about 30,000 expats living in Bali, but there's no tourists at all, and it looks like it's going to be some months before the tourists start to trickle back. They're even talking about opening the borders up in July, but I can tell you now, even my country, New Zealand, which is pretty much wiped out the virus. We've had no cases at all for 7 days, total of 21 deaths. They're talking about no international flights till the end of the year. In the meantime, though, this has led to some severe poverty, affecting hundreds of thousands of people and their families. Without any income, how are they going to buy food to feed their families? Well, there's been some help initiatives for the individual villages, which are overseen by the banjars, as they're called in Bali, which can help the local Balinese with some food handouts. But if you're not local, if you're one of those 50 to 60% of workers in Bali who are from Java, Surabaya, Sumatra, Timor, Lombok, they're not eligible for those handouts and those local initiatives, so they've got to find food from elsewhere. That brings me to some fantastic charitable initiatives that are being organised by expats that live in Bali. People like Sam Mahoney and James Foley, they're running a charity called Project Nasi. For those that don't know, Nasi is the Indonesian word for rice, the sacred staple diet of any meal in Bali, which is why these two guys are surfers, but they're also restaurateurs, and they chose that name, Project Nasi, as the name for their grassroots efforts to help feed the disadvantaged during the COVID-19 lockdown. Both Mahoney and Foley have turned their restaurants into sort of crisis kitchens. They call them impromptu aid stations, where the local community can drop by and pick up individual recyclable, of course, paper bags full of food supplies that should keep a family fed for about a week at a time. Both Sam and James, along with other surfers, friends of theirs, Chelsea, Ella, Blake, Jesse, and local surf club president Nyoman, Sumatra, and Mangku Kasim, they've all banded together to make this an island-wide network. So they've even pulled in other restaurants, and because they have been running restaurants, they've got the supply chain to the suppliers that can provide the food and help provide it in a coordinated, efficient way. So far, Project Nasi has been operating on donations from people, and they've got a crowdfunding page now. Last time I looked, it was around pushing $40,000, and that's Aussie dollars. And they hope Project Nasi may grow into an organisation that will continually provide food for the needy in any other future disaster So here's a video that Sam and James have put together, showing you how they operate.
Minggu yang baru dan makin banyak orang yang harus kami bantu beri makan. Persediaan bahan makanan kami dari berbagai vendor dan pasar sekitar daerah kami, sehingga kami dapat menyebarkan. Karyawan dari kopi kartel dan beberapa orang-orang yang berjiwa mulia telah membantu kami saat kami menyiapkan sembako untuk dibagikan. Minggu lalu kami telah memberikan bantuan bahan sembako kepada lebih dari 300 kepala keluarga, dan minggu ini kami berharap untuk bisa dapat membantu 400 paket bahkan lebih sembako untuk disumbangkan. Kami ucapkan banyak terima kasih kepada masyarakat yang telah ikut berpartisipasi, ikut ambil bagian ini, yaitu masyarakat dari Banjar Legian Tengah, Banjar Legian Klon, Banjar Legian Kaja. Melalui Ibu Ilo, kami juga telah membantu dari Banjar Batu Belik. Terima kasih banyak kepada Scouts Internasional atas donasi berasnya. Terima kasih banyak kepada perusahaan air Aqua atas donasinya selama ini. Terima kasih banyak kepada Mades Warung yang telah join di Project Nasi dan membantu keluarga di Jimbaran. Kami menggunakan sebuah aplikasi yang bernama Cop Aplikasi Indonesia untuk membantu mengumpulkan data kepala keluarga yang harus mendapat bantuan. Kami berharap orang lain bisa bergabung di aplikasi ini. Kami menargetkan donasi sebanyak $30.000 dan sekarang dana donasi telah terkumpul sebanyak 24.000 sekian dolar. Kami ucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada para donatur yang mulia, juga terima kasih banyak kepada orang-orang yang telah membantu kami packing paket sembako. Sekian.
Another fantastic initiative just north of the Project Nasi one is Crisis Kitchen, which I think's near Kirikoban somewhere, and that's organised by Bradley Downs and Kylie Palmley. Crisis Kitchen, they're seeing huge numbers of people showing up every day to collect brown paper packs with rice, veggies and basic groceries. And I'll just show you a bit of a video here. I think it's Kylie presenting this video, and I do warn you, when I first watched it, did bring a couple of tears to my eyes. It's a little bit sad.
It all seems very peaceful and normal when you've got this sort of backdrop. But what is really happening on the streets and in the villages and with the people here is that because the island is such a big tourist spot, so many people come here from holidays all over the world, and we're not alone in that. We're one of those places that's been very heavily affected. And what that means is the people here that work in a number of industries have all lost their jobs, and from that people are literally starving. They're not eating. There are families that aren't able to feed their children, their elderly. When we started to hear about those stories and we started to see people's pleas on social media and through people that we know here, a good friend of mine who has a gorgeous little cafe in Bali and here in Umulas reached out and said, hey, I think we should do something. And we have. So from that sort of simple conversation, we put up the concept of putting together a crisis kitchen. every single day we have, these messages come through, and the first thing that they say is, "I'm so sorry to bother you. Like, can you help me? We need food." I just can't tell you how simple it is. People need food.
I cannot eat because I have to lost my job from the last month. My husband too, so I have the 2 kids. Stay at home, need to feed him. Yeah. So I'm very excited to all this one. I would like to say thank you very much.
Tidak apa, Ibu.
God will reply your witness. Thank you.
We've had people come and collect packs of food from us, and we want to make sure that we're giving people what they need. A breastfeeding mother who has newborn babies, less than a month old, who hasn't eaten for 2 days. I'm a mother, I've got 2 children. I can't even imagine what that would be like to wake up in the morning and not be able to provide for your family. It's devastating. It's really devastating. All we want to do is be able to give people a bit of hope, a meal, and to give them dignity, to be able to walk out and know that they're able to go somewhere, that they're able to come back to their family, their children, their elderly, and be able to say, "Hey, I've got our food." Every day this little kitchen of ours has evolved, and we have set some goals because we can see that we need to do this for a long time. And our goal at the moment is to be able to put into a pack like this enough food to feed one person for 4 days. Over time, and we can see that being possibly as early as next week, we want to be able to put in to one of these little brown paper packs enough food to feed a person for 7 days. We want people to know that when they go home that they're able to feed their family for a week. We don't talk a lot about the reasons why this is happening here. We take care of our health and our safety. That C word is really the cause of what is going to be a devastating effect if we don't get people fed and we don't take care of them. Bali gives back to anyone who gives to it, and we know that the people that help, whether you're in Australia, whether you're in other parts of the world, wherever you are, that if you're able to give a little bit, that Bali will always give back to you when you come back again. We need you to come back.
So there you have it. There's 2 fantastic operations. There are many, 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 many more. Yeah, there's even a couple of Kiwis running an operation called Hope to Fam. Now, I don't have any video of those guys, so as you can see just while I'm talking, there's a lot of still shots of their operation too. And there's numerous others. I do know of some very small operations. There's one in Sanur, where a local Javanese guy who runs a homestay there, obviously with no guest, a kind Australian who's been staying with them has donated through his subscribers, YouTuber, through his subscribers, a few million rupiah to just feed 5 families of Javanese that are really struggling to get food at the moment and feed their families. So there's lots of little operations going on around the country. And like I say, the local Balinese and the local villages are being looked after by the banjars. They're like the leaders who sort of dole out the free food. And fingers crossed though, the news is, like I've said before in previous videos, I'm pretty sure Bali's already had the pandemic come through in January and February, and I'm pretty sure they've got enough herd immunity, so they could be one of the early parts are the early ones to reopen. One of the parts of Indonesia that will reopen sooner than the rest, but obviously things aren't that great, especially when you see the amount of cases in Java, and with people travelling back to see their families in Java, then coming back opens more risks. And it's a question when we can travel from New Zealand and Australia back to Bali without having to come home and do 2 weeks quarantine when we get back. That would just make it very impractical. So I've been really, really busy. I do apologise that it's taken me a couple of weeks to get this next video out. I will try and get my next one out a bit sooner. Hope you're all well, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe. This is Mr. Steve on the latest report from my favourite country of Bali. Catch you in the next vid.